Alright, hello Guild Wars 2 gamers. Today is Wednesday, August 6th. We've got some Guild Wars 2 news. We have got the newest blog post, which is the final 3 elite specializations, the Elementalist, the Engineer, and the Revenant. And first off, we've got a video. So I've got a few tabs open here. Let's just jump into the video. I have not seen this yet. Let's finally find out who is who, other than the Evoker. We know that one.
Evocation was a veiled practice among Norn shamans, but the spirits of the wild have encouraged them to share this practice with
Oh no, it's Norn themed.
Evokers channel the elements to summon forth a familiar to join them in battle.
Wait. Okay, hold on. So, one of my early things that I said, dude, it is a water otter. Oh my god. So I said, jokingly, I was like, you know, does the fox just change to every element? Or when you go in the water, is it a water otter? I said that as a joke. I was right on that one. Totally had no idea on the other two, though. It looks like air is a bunny. And what is it? Earth is a frog or a toad?
Summon a cunning fox, summon forth a familiar to join them in battle. Summon a cunning fox familiar to throw flaming projectiles at your enemies. Call forth a gentle otter and quench the battlefield with cleansing waves. Electrify the scene with a hair cast from lightning and storm. And break ground.
That's a cool animation.
Of an earthen toad, fortifying yourself.
It's a toad.
These familiars will be your strongest allies in battle. Protect them as they protect you, and help the spirits of the wild connect once again with the greater world as the Evoker.
Okay. Alright, so I already have a lot of stuff to say, but let's get through the video without me interrupting it too much first.
Surin Ingenuity has done it again with the creation of the Mercurial Mold, an amalgam.
It was amalgam for Engie.
Tune their microbial biology.
That hair is intense.
To their new ferrofluid friend to enhance their body in battle. Shred your enemies as you throw out globs of slime to form flying discs that cut anything in their path. Command your ooze to form around you as you melt to avoid incoming attacks, and deal out damage to enemies that stand too close. And don't forget to bash the enemy as you cleave them with a blunt mold. As an amalgam, bond with your mold and adapt to the ever-changing battlefield. A mysterious entity is...
Okay, alright, so I wasn't too far off when I said the liquid metal guy from Terminator 2 yesterday. Very interesting. Alright.
At play. Raza has been watching Tyria from the mists. Channel their powers, assume different forms, and devastate the battlefield as a...
So, quick pause. I know a tiny bit about Raza. When I open the... I am watching this and have not read this yet. I'm watching this for the first time, and I have not read this article yet. But when I saw the headpiece on this thumbnail, I figured that he was going to be related, and I opened a tab to talk about him a little bit. I didn't realize it was going to be, like, literally him. I just thought it was going to be related to, like, his people.
Conduit. Channel Raza and gain ascension skills. Gain their powers, but only for a limited time. Learn their abilities to better understand the best path to victory through your connection to the assassin, warrior, mesmer, monk, and dervish. Unleash powers that have not been seen since the legends themselves. Through your connection to Raza, find strength, resilience, courage, and purpose.
Wait, does he change all the other legends?
As the Conduit.
Hold on. I know I could just read it, but hold on.
Conduit. Channel Raza and gain ascension skills. Gain their powers, but only for a limited time. Learn their abilities to better understand the best path to victory through your connection to the assassin, warrior.
So okay. So assassin stays assassin. Dwarf becomes warrior.
Mesmer.
Demon becomes mesmer. I mean, yeah, if you've ever met a mesmer to jumping puzzle, yeah.
Monk.
Centaur becomes the monk.
And Dervish.
Who's Dervish? Is just Raza himself the Dervish?
Unleash.
Scythe. That's the Sun Spear Scythe. This might be a staff with a scythe skin in his hand. For a second, I was like, wait, did they actually get to wield a scythe? Is it like F4 to summon scythe? But I think this might be a staff with a scythe skin.
Powers that have not been seen since the legends.
Okay. Let me...
Courage and purpose as the conduit.
Okay. All right, let's read about it before I talk your ear off, and let's see what the facts are. All right. Today we're unveiling the final 3 elite specializations coming to Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity. If you missed our previous reveals, make sure you check out the Elite Spec blogs for the Mesmer Ranger and Guardian and the Thief, Necromancer, and Warrior. Before we dive into the details for the Revenant, Ellie, and Engineer, make sure you tune into our Twitch channel Friday, August 8th at 12 p.m. Pacific Time for a live preview of the 3 elite specs we're talking about today. As always, that's the information if you want to watch it live. I will be covering it during my evening show on Friday, so I'll have a video on it up a little bit later if you want to watch it, via me. But if you want to watch it live, that is on their main Twitch channel, and it usually shows up on the YouTube channel a little bit later. You'll also be able to play all the elite specs yourself during our beta event from August 20th at 9 a.m. Pacific Time until August 27th at 10 p.m. Pacific Time. The Evoker, Spiritual Summoners. And we got a picture here. Pretty rad artwork. So there's the Firefox, the Electric Bunny, the Earth Toad, and the Water Otter. The Water. Alright. Having toppled the powerful Jotun civilization in the previous Dragon Rise, Jormag was poised to claim the Shiver Peaks and beyond when they awoke once again. However, as the dragon's influence crept south of the mountainous crown, displacing the various Coden sanctuaries, it collided with the stalwart and courageous resolve of the Norn and their ever-watching guides, the spirits of the wild. Despite their resistance, Jormag's campaign left lasting scars on many of the spirits, consuming or corrupting those that held the line. In the years since Jormag's defeat, the Norn have made strides to reconnect and commune with the spirits. Except Owl, thanks Bram. Many now turn to old practices that harken to a time when the first pacts that entwined both groups in spiritual harmony were spoken, the centuries-old tradition of the Evoker. Drawing upon the forces of the natural world, these Norn elementalists call upon spiritual companions and empower them with elemental energy. Oh, okay, so you have to be a Norn elementalist. The other races can't play this. At the Spirit's behest, the Norn have been encouraged to share this practice beyond their own to help restore and heal Tyria's nature spirits. Familiar friends. Every Evoker starts with a choice. Which element do you want to specialize in? Selecting an elemental skill on the F5 slot will specialize in that element, granting a few bonuses. Okay. First, the attunement skill for that element will have a significantly reduced recharge time. In addition, some of the Evoker's traits and utility skills will be affected by your chosen element. And most importantly, a familiar of that element will join you on your adventure. Okay, so you've got an F5, which is like a little empty slot, and you put an element in it, and that element gets buffed, and you get that familiar. Okay. Fire Specialist will be accompanied by the Cunning Fox, Water joined by the Mischievous Otter, Air by the Agile Hare, and Earth gets the Stalwart Toad. The familiar has 2 different skills that are available in the F5 slot once they are fully charged, a basic skill and an empowered skill. The basic skill is charged as the Evoker uses their own weapon skills, requiring a total of 6 to fully charge. Weapon skills that match the familiar's element will count for double, meaning that only 3 fire attunement skills will be required to fully charge the Fox's skill. The familiar's empowered skill will unlock after using its basic skill 3 times, and that's when the Evoker and their familiar unleash their full potential. The Evoker is a flexible specialization capable of filling a number of roles depending on which element you specialize in. Those leaning toward fire may want to choose to focus on conditioned damage, as the Fox will complement those builds well. And I wonder if this is the empowered thing. I'm seeing like an earth bursting up. I see lightning. I see fire swirling around. I see like a water bubble crashing down. Like this looks like what Aang was doing at the end of the Avatar series. Fiery Foxes. The Fox's basic skill is called Ignite. When activated, the Fox will launch a fiery missile at your target, dealing some damage and inflicting burning. An enemy struck by this skill in quick succession will receive additional stacks of burning. After using Ignite 3 times, and hopefully inflicting a good chunk of burning, Evokers will gain access to the Fox's empowered skill, Conflagration. Using this skill will summon the Fox near your target, after which it will perform a leaping strike that inflicts burning and also spreads any burning from that target to nearby enemies, up to a limit. We thought that spreading 1,500 burning stacks might be a bit too powerful. I mean, I've never seen over 300, so... tune in to our stream this Friday for a full reveal of the other spirit companions and their abilities. Okay, so, first off... it's not actually a pet class. And they never said it was, but, you know, we saw the Firefox and lots of people wondered if Ellie was going to be getting a pet class. And no, the thing is going to sit above your shoulder, kind of like a gyro. Certainly not in the same way as a gyro. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but my point is, it's a familiar. Kind of like in D&D or Pathfinder, you know, if you've got a wizard and they got a familiar, it's usually a small, companion. You often would keep it out of combat. It wouldn't be out on the front lines tanking for you or anything like that, and it would augment your abilities. So it's closer to the familiar idea than it is to the, companion idea.
Period. Evokers channel the elements to summon forth a familiar to join them in battle. Summon a cunning fox familiar to throw flaming projectiles at you.
So there's Ignite.
Call forth a gentle
Then probably... I'm wondering if that was Conflagration. Alright, so right here... Hang on.
To throw
so I think this is Ignite.
flaming
Pew pew.
projectiles at your enemies.
And then this, I think, is Conflagration.
Call
Boom.
forth a gentle otter and quench the battlefield with cleansing waves. Electrify the scene with a hair cast from lightning and storm. And break ground with the help.
I want to say again, I really like this animation they did here. The rabbit just like ping, 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 ping.
And break ground with the help of an earthen toad, fortifying yourself. These familiars will be your strongest allies in battle.
And then here we've got some kind of empowered skill where all 4 of them float in the air
as they protect
and just cast Muck You on this person.
The spirits of the wild. Connect once again with the great...
So yeah, so right there we see all 4 of them hitting. So there's some kind of super skill. Might be the elite. That's a good guess. Yeah, it might be the elite skill. It's just all of them hitting at once.
Your world as the Evoker.
Looks pretty neat. What really caught my eye and ear the most was the part that said whatever element is selected is going to have a vastly reduced cooldown time. And I'm remembering during the brief time I tried out Support Ellie, that if I went into water as part of the rotation to keep up Soothing Mist, and then I left water and then someone else had an emergency, it would be 10 seconds before I could go back into water to try to help them. And I'm wondering, like, assuming this has, skills that support a support playstyle, I'm wondering how much better it would feel to be able to go back into water much more often if you're playing a support build.
Is Eli finally getting down Sate's attunements?
Is Ellie finally getting down? I don't know about that, Reagan. I don't know. Yeah, I really like the idea of just drastically reducing the cooldown of one of your elements, because that could completely change rotations for a lot of the builds. Okay, cool. That, not gonna lie, that looks pretty nice to me, and I historically do not play Ellies that much. Very much want to see that trait line. I want to see what they're capable of doing. Since they've got the Water Otter, I assume that they're going to have a support option, but we will find out more on that topic on Friday. Moving on to the next one. I did a whole video yesterday on, is the Engie Conduit? Here's my idea. Is it Amalgam? Here's my idea. And for Amalgam, I talked about Mercury, because in our world, an Amalgam is typically a combination of mercury plus another metal used in dentistry, according to Google. Thank you, Google. So I talked about liquid metal, and I actually talked about the T-1000, the liquid metal guy from Terminator 2. and how he was, you know, turn parts of his body into metal and shape change them. He couldn't turn them into something complex, like he couldn't turn his arm into a machine gun for any younglings who haven't seen that, but anything that was like a simple idea, like he could turn his hands into giant spikes or clubs or crowbars, you know, sharp, blunt things. He could do that. And of course, if you blasted a hole in him, it would just bloop, and it would just seal back up. So this seems very inspired by that guy. All right, let's see what we got. The Amalgam, oozing with power. Asuran scientists have studied, manipulated, transformed, and occasionally displaced oozes at every level of scientific research. It's true, there's like multiple ooze labs in the newbie zone. Endlessly adaptable, oozes can absorb the properties of substances and living creatures they come into contact with, and a recent breakthrough has allowed them to be used as a powerful tool for both defense and offense. The mercurial mold is a special species of ooze. Wait, you're just wearing an ooze? You're like, all right, eat this mercury. Ooze is like, nom nom. You're like, all right, get on. They could form a symbiotic bond with its owner and interpret their needs in battle. It's lightweight, responds instantly, requires no special feeding, and best of all, no fatalities have been reported as a result of the bonding process. Have been reported. Why not give it a try? Okay, it's not T-1000, it's freaking Venom. All right. Okay. I also mentioned yesterday that if they were going to do a liquid metal route, they already have a lot of this stuff they need in the game through the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is a legendary hammer that has a whole bunch of spell graphics that look like liquid metal, and this looks like they used those textures quite well and applied them to new skills. Slime time. Bonded with their mercurial mold, amalgams are engineers with unparalleled adaptive capabilities. By being able to freely customize which morph skills they select, you can arrive to any fight with the right tools to survive and dish out damage. Amalgams can temporarily meld with their slime, resulting in an altered or even mutated form. An amalgam's experimentation results in a malleable fighter that can always find the edge in combat. Amalgams replace the engineer's utility toolbelt abilities with morph abilities. There are several morph skills, and you can select which ones to fight with in the same manner you select your utility skills. The morph skills command the mercurial mold to shapeshift into different forms, such as shield, defensive spikes, or even a massive sword. Okay, that's really interesting.
Hello there.
Hello there. Okay, so your tool belt has got more options than there are slots on the belt. And you can change the ones that are there from a pool of options until you get the ones you want. I think that's what I'm understanding. That is, for any non-Engie mains, the way it has worked historically is if you pick, like, every skill for your utility bar comes with the tool belt skill. So, like, you might have, like, you know, drink potion as one of your buttons, and then the tool belt button that associates with it would be throw potion, and then you could toss it at a teammate. That's just a very simple example, but you get the idea, I hope. So every skill for your heal, your 3 utilities, and your elite had a tool belt button that was associated with it. So you pick a skill, you would get that skill and the tool belt version of that skill. You'd get 2 things. Unless you played Mechanist, which would have the mech instead of the tool belt. So this, you don't get the, 2-for-1 thing, but you have your own set of choices up here to make. Which, how much I like that is going to be dependent on how interesting those skills are. Alright. Become one with the mold. Your elite tool belt skill is replaced by Evolve. Evolve briefly combines the engineer and the mercurial mold into one being, granting a host of benefits. These benefits, however, are unique to each slime. As you select your morph skills, your mercurial mold's composition is altered to also change what happens when you evolve. These compositional shifts, called strains, can vary from granting super speed and quickness to stunning nearby enemies when you evolve. Amalgam's utility skills are stances. The mercurial mold can assist you in shifting your form, making you as dense as steel or light as a feather. With the skill Liquid State, you can even melt down into a puddle. Okay, and I think we saw that during the video.
Done it again. With the creation of the mercurial mold, an amalgam can attune their microbial biology to their new ferrofluid friend to enhance their body in battle. Shred your enemies as you throw out globs of slime to form flying discs that cut anything in their path. Command your
There it
ooze
is.
to
There's the
form
puddle
around
thing.
you as you melt to avoid incoming attacks, and deal out damage to enemies that stay.
So the question is, that skill, just from what we see here, it looks like it just makes you invulnerable, but unable to play for a second or two. Like, you just go bloop, and then you come back up. Which makes me think of Vladimir from League of Legends. The vampire guy that could turn into a puddle of blood, and he was invulnerable for a few moments, and then he would, come back together afterward.
Stand too close. And don't forget to bash the enemy.
I love how that hammer is noticeably too long. Like, you could tell it's stretched a little bit. It makes me think of Luffy.
Enemy as you cleave them with a blunt mold. As an amalgam, bond
Okay, I think we just saw a pull there. And a porcupine blender.
with your mold and adapt to the ever-changing battlefield. A mysterious entity.
I know it's a trailer, but sword offhand. Wait, what? I'm pretty sure you had a pistol offhand. Hold on.
Globs of slime. Biology to their new
That's a gun. Yeah, that's a long-barreled gun.
ferrofluid friend to enhance their body in battle.
Yeah, nice hoping, but no. That's a big old pistol. All right. So stances, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that is all we know so far on the Amalgam. Very interesting. Now, how much I like it is going to be dependent upon, like, the traits and skills. But the actual, like, lore, like, the idea behind it is decent. It is true. There are a bunch of slime labs that have been in the game for like 10 years, and this follows that. Kind of like this up here, the thing with the spirits. Like, yeah, there's plenty of lore to back this up. Now, I think it's going to be a teensy tiny bit odd that, races other than Norn are going to be talking to the elements. Or, sorry, I said elements. I meant spirits. However, that's a very small stretch, right? Like, if we're comparing that to Antiquary, like, for, like, the disbelief scale as a lore nerd, this is a 1 and Antiquary is 100. So I think they did a pretty good job with these two so far. All right, let's see what the last one is. The Conduit, channeling the past. And we've got the hat here, which, again, Raza. All right, the Conduit, channeling the past. Centuries ago, the hero who defeated the fallen god Abaddon met a strange entity imprisoned deep within the realm of torment, Raza, a being born of the mists. Freed by Abaddon's death to seek their own purpose in life, Raza chose to accompany the hero across Tyria, and their boundless curiosity led them to study and master any number of martial and magical disciplines. So, let me talk about Raza for a second. I know a tiny bit about this guy because it's come up in conversation and talks before. Raza was added in Guild Wars 1's Nightfall, which is the only campaign I haven't personally played of Guild Wars 1. I'll get to it at some point. But he was a character that could join your party, and you designed him to be like a party member. He was a hero. He started as a ritualist, but you could change him to be anything. You could change him into anything. It was almost a blank slate. And this is his read-up. The proto-matter that makes up the mist strains towards creation, often spawning demonic creatures in nightmarish forms. Not all creatures from the mist are demonic, however. When the mist came into contact with a suitable human template, for example, it can copy that form, creating a sentient entity with a humanoid appearance and an almost human mind. Raza is one such creation. It has sprung into being a fully formed adult. It has the knowledge and capabilities of a human, but it lacks common sense. As a result, it asks odd questions about human emotions, contemplates human motivations, and attempts to duplicate human mannerisms. Raza is a contradiction. More than human in some ways, less than human in others. It needs an identity, a personality, and a purpose. Hopefully it will find its purpose by working with a hero, otherwise it could degenerate into an abomination as monstrous and inhuman as its demonic brethren. Which reminds me a little bit of Baby Aurene, when we kept, like, training her to help people because we didn't want her to grow up to be like every other dragon that has ever existed. Okay, so this guy, or this mist being, who was a blank slate and has learned a lot about the world and how to play every single class in Guild Wars 1, is being channeled by Revenants. Alright. Glint was not evil. Okay, fine, -1. Alright. The Conduit, channeling the past. Centuries ago, we already read that paragraph. Alright, but Razah's story seemed to have ended with their companions. No one has seen or heard from them since. They may have returned to the mist to wander or fall into the corruption they once feared. They might have learned to mimic human behavior precisely enough to live 100 lives in obscurity. Or they could have been watching our world, still learning and waiting for someone like you. And there's Razah there. Looking real good. Harness the Mists. After the complexity of having two different legends in the form of Saint Victor and Archimoris in Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, we wanted to focus on a single legend that offered an equally unique experience. As a denizen born of the Mist, Razah is the first living legend to assist the Revenant in their adventures. Living legend. Okay, so that's really cool. So there was for a long time, people thought that Revenants could channel anyone dead. And then, I forget when it was said, but at some point, someone official said, oh, no, they can channel living beings too. It's just, it has to be someone who had a strong enough impact on the world that they left, like, an imprint of themselves on the mist. But it just hasn't come up yet. So this is the first time the Rev is channeling someone who's alive. With the Conduit, and that means Razah's running around somewhere too, so that's pretty cool. With the Conduit, we wanted to portray the multifaceted nature of Razah's unique link to the Mists. Thus, the Elite spec was designed to have a malleability and flexibility that reflected Razah's ability to transform into any profession. By amplifying the Revenant's connection to the Mists, the Conduit can tap into a deeper well of power through the legends they choose to channel, further augmenting their existing strengths. And then we got him roaring, and then Razah above him there. Can the Revenant channel themselves, the commander? Be unstoppable. Legendary Affinity. As the Conduit, you gain the ability to use Cosmic Wisdom, allowing you to further channel the powers of your equipped legend, giving rise to different forms. As an example, using Cosmic Wisdom with Legendary Assassin stance equipped gives access to Form of the Assassin, granting the Conduit bonus power and movement speed, as well as inflicting debilitating conditions on foes you strike. Cosmic Wisdom only lasts for a limited amount of time, but it can be extended through the use of Affinity. Affinity is a new resource that represents the strength of your connection to your legend. Affinity can be gained through using any legendary skills that cost energy. Each point of Affinity you gain increases the duration of Cosmic Wisdom by a set amount. However, you lose all Affinity as you swap legends. Thanks to the power of Razah, Conduits gain access to Legendary Entity stance, bringing with them various skills that harken back to when they wandered Tyria as a hero. Each skill in Legendary Entity stance has an effect called Resonance, a bonus effect that comes into play if the corresponding legend is equipped in the other slot. For example, Beguiling Haze normally shadow steps you to the target while performing a quick attack on them. However, if you have a Legendary Assassin stance equipped as your second legend, the skill becomes an area of effect targeted skill, allowing Conduits to shadow step even without a target, and strikes all enemies in the vicinity. Ooh. That sounds pretty interesting. So each of Razah's skills is going to have another legend associated with it. And if your second legend that you're not using in that moment happens to be that legend, those skills are buffed. So they're, I mean, you know, for utility, one heal, so probably the heal skill will be Centaur, I would imagine, and, you know, the others are probably going to be utility / the elite. At Muck, Beguiling Haze was a Guild Wars 1 elite assassin skill. Yeah, I think Wanderlust, that the Ritualist Spirit got, was an elite as well, but they got it as just like a basic thing. But yeah, we'll see. Live stream this Friday. We hope that you enjoyed our elite spec previews. Let us know on our socials and forums which one you're the most excited to play in the upcoming beta on August 20th. Tune into our Twitch channel this Friday, August 8th at 12 p.m. Pacific Time for more details on the Conduit, Evoker, and the Amalgam. For more info on Visions of Eternity, head to the official site, and then there's a link. All right. You know, we still Don't know a lot, and we'll find out on Friday. But just based on the teaser, kind of feeling the phrase "they saved the best for last." And this is coming from a Ranger main. These look cool. Like, I like what I'm seeing here. I'm very interested in these. I want to see the traits. I want to see the stuff.
I woke up too early today and the first thing I see is Revenant's spec name. I'm not mad about the law.
I'm literally trying to stop that. Okay, hold on. I'll play that in a minute. I'll come back and play that in a minute. God damn it. Where was I? What year is it? Okay, these look really good. These look really cool. They definitely put a lot of thought into these. As someone who's been enjoying the lore of the game, these have, decent connections to the lore. Like, we've got a character that was very much a thing in the game for the Revenants. We've got, references to the Asura here. And really, each class seems to be attached, although some of them are quite tenuously, to a race. Like, the Troubadour is related to the Sylvari going on, like, a world tour. And then we've got, this thing with the Asuran Labs. And then we've got the Elementalist Evoker with the spirits and stuff like that. So, I think they did a pretty good job with these, both from a lore perspective and also, at first glance, gameplay-wise. I'm very interested to see more of their stuff. We need to see, like, the traits, and we need to see what skills they're going to getting, and the weird tool belt skills that the Amalgam is going to get. But I like what I see so far. And I think that's all we got so far. So that is everything we know right now about the Ellie, the Engineer, and the Revenant. And I think we'll just stop it there. At this point, it's just, more speculation. It turned out the Ellie wasn't a pet build. It was more of like a familiar build, which is fine. And then the liquid metal guy ended up being spot on. I wasn't expecting Venom, but we got that too. And then the Rev taking the form of someone who could take anyone's form. Really going to have to see how unique they made these, because by dividing the skills up, there's a skill for Centaur, there's a skill for Assassin. It's going to be pretty diluted, but I'm curious to see how powerful these things are going to be. Yeah. All right, I think we'll pause it there. So, that's everything we know from the news today. If you got any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, or if you noticed anything unique in the video that we missed and you want to point it out, put it in the comment section down below, and I'll fight you there.